Hello, and welcome to Terrorball, an ongoing history. My name is... And today we will be covering Preseason's Week 1 through 10. You might be asking yourself, what is Terrorball? And it's a lot like baseball, however, you are not a player. Instead, you take the role of a fan. It's streamed live on Twitch, but most interaction is done over on Blue Sky, the social media very similar to Twitter. And on occasion, this account will ask fans to vote on things like new game rules or stat changes for players. Speaking of players, they aren't actually real. T-ball is a simulated baseball game, essentially, and this also gives a unique opportunity for fans to be the ones who give these players designs and personality. With that out of the way, let's talk actual events. On September 23rd, Gina Goodman, the games manager of the Northeast Regional Division, made her first post on Blue Sky, in which she introduces herself. Later that evening, she announces that games will start. In the Northeast Regional Division, aka the Nerd, there are 4 teams, those being the Maine Apple Barons, the Providence Al Dente, the Jersey Boardwalkers, and the Sleepy Hollow Cranes. The VOD for the Week 1 stream was on YouTube for a short bit, however, has since been removed for redacted reasons. These games are considered partially non-canon, but what does this mean? I've got no clue currently, as we can only know that once we get to the actual season. The first game between the Apple Barons and Boardwalkers ended in a tie, and fans got to decide which team moved on, that being the Barons. Both teams did, however, get a loss added to their win-loss record. Gina has since stated that any ties count as losses for both teams and will continue to. The championship was won by the Cranes when put up against the Apple Barons. The following day, Gina asked fans on Blue Sky if they wanted rain or sun in the first intentional pull of T-ball. Fans voted for rain, and this made the sun sad. I'd like to mention the capitalization of forsake in we will forsake the sun. And on the 27th, Gina posts, "It is misting outside." This is when it officially started to rain in the plane of T-ball. Week 2 started off with game day, and it was announced that the winner of this championship would earn a stadium. The Cranes once again beat out the Apple Barons to win the first Nerd Stadium. A rivalry might just be brewing. During the stream, Jonathan Grolan, the pitcher for the Apple Barons, was implicated in a controversy. This controversy was due to him recording at-bats as pitches, with pitches being completely unaccounted for, even though other pitchers were having this exact same issue. Chat also notes that teams have 10 players, meaning that they have a designated hitter and pitcher. Instead of taking that way, Gina says that we have to punish the teams. She eventually stops herself and doesn't do anything. On October 2nd, Gina wants to try something and ask for fans to pick between less is more or less. More or Less won, which enacted anti-count, swapping strike counts with balls, so now players needed 3 balls to walk and 4 strikes to strike out. However, there were much more dire consequences, that of 4 players being taken off the table. These 4 players are Jolene Shepard-Mary of the Apple Barons, Anna Ottoman of the Al Dente, Aldrin Drill of the Boardwalkers, and Amelia Tromoyne of the Cranes. These players were removed from their team's roster. This might be related to the 10-player incident during this week's stream, but that's just hearsay. Lastly, on this post, someone commented about how Al Dente and the Apple Barons rosters were swapped. The poster then implied that Grolan might have swapped them, to which Gina responds, "Strike 2, Grolan." It's safe to assume the first strike was for Grolan's initial controversy. The next game was announced for October 8th, along with the announcement of the winner getting some skill. Gina then makes a change of plans. Instead of the usual best of 1, she wants to use Monarch of the Mound, which is similar to King of the Hill. Basically, the Cranes will have to defend their win streak. During Week 3's tournament, the Twitch account reaches 100 followers, so Gina lets the fans decide what main stat should have one of its substats increased. The 4 stats being pitching, batting, and fielding, excluding the 4th mysterious primary stat from the choices. On the first at-bat of the whole tournament, it was revealed that the Cranes Stadium comfort innings can make batters fall asleep when they come up to bat. This is due to their batter's box having abundant coziness. This allows pitchers to freely throw balls. Whenever a person who is currently sleeping is allowed to take a walk, they will automatically do a home run. During the stream, a fan asks why the sport is called Terrorball, and Gina responds saying it is short for redacted. We also find out that there are patrons watching the game. She also has certain clearance for things, currently just for the Northeast Regional Division. We also find out that Grolin has some strong stats, which are shown on screen. The Cranes remain undefeated, giving them a healthy boost to their fielding as a treat. However, the fans get to pick between outfield or infield. After this, anti-count then expires and is currently yet to return. The fans could not really decide on what part of the field to pick, so the Cranes basically had to play against a version of themselves to decide which side of the field would get this stat boost. Basically, there were two of each player. Outfield won this match and got an increase to their glove-heart coordination. Gina then announces that on October 16th, a worst of one tournament will occur, where the worst performing team will have to sacrifice one of their players' stats to quell the storm. I forgot to mention this sooner, however, rain has stages. The higher it goes, the more dangerous the storm gets, and the less likely error-free gameplay is. Week 4 has games starting, and Gina forgetting to ask the fans about what stat should be sacrificed, so she does this during the middle of the stream. During the stream, however, a fan asks Gina what her favorite dino is, and it is a Parasaurolophus. Probably didn't say that right at all, but we're going to move on. Why bring this up? It's important later, don't worry. The Cranes proceeded to lose all 2 of their matches, ending up not just losing their win streak, but also Edison Yarakan losing all of their pitching stats and their question mark, whatever that is. This sacrifice does not work, as Gina says the storm intensifies, followed by, but that should have worked. Later, an automated system posts on Gina's account a picture of a weather radar that is blue and purple cloud approaching the east coast, and above it, it says, the storm has intensified. A few days later, Gina asks the fans what tournament type should be used to decide what team gets a player sacrificed. Best of the worst, worst of the best, or best of the best. Best of the best was picked. The following day, she announces the next game day, and that the winner gets the reward of a stadium. A reporter brings up that the Cranes could win this stadium, and Gina hopes it doesn't happen. Week 5 sees the Cranes winning another stadium, with their comeback from the devastating loss from last week. The Cranes' Steven Benjori then has their pitching and running stats sacrificed, which is the question mark stat that we had no idea what it was, to the ever-looming rain cloud. During this tournament, colored rain gets introduced. Cyan and purple are seen. Purple increases pitching stats, including zip, zop, arm, brain, ball coordination, and intimidation. I cannot wait for you to hear some of these other substat names. In other, much sadder news, sleepwalks at the Cranes Stadium no longer give home runs, and the players just go to first base. In other sad news, the final stage of rain also makes an appearance during the Cranes v. Apple Barons game. It's called the Nor'easter and is based on the real weather type of Nor'easter. Nor'easters affect specifically the northeast area of the U.S., the same region that the teams so far are from. Gina hopes the sacrifice will appease the storm to avoid another Nor'easter. On the 25th, Gina posts saying good news and bad news. She can't say what either are, however, she can say that the good thing is a treat and the other is a miscalculation. Gina then, on the 27th, asked fans if a player should be sacrificed again or wait and see what happens. Waiting was picked by the public. Gina then makes an odd post saying, Ubuntu? Ubuntu is an open source operating system, which the devs of T-Ball might have used at some point in relation to T-Ball, and then proceeded to not use it anymore. It's not that important, just a fun fact. The Blue Sky account reached 100 followers on the 29th, so Gina has a questionnaire. I have a lot of cover here. What does off the table mean? Which was a question asked by Bugs. Gina responds with redacted, game, redacted, off the table, redacted, a redacted place. Then we get a very, very short answer question. What is the current T-ball death count? This was asked by Blue. Gina responds with 4. And then later we have, are these the 4 players who've gone off the table? Asks Bugs. The 4 players are blank, 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 and blank, says Gina. Then these players listed are most likely Jolene, Shepard Mary, Anna Ottoman, Aldrin Drill, and Amelia Tremoyne. And then, of course, lastly, what is the full name of Terrorball? Asked by yours truly, to which Gina responded, Territory Ball. Territory presumably means each division has its own set of rules and tournaments, which is a fun way to keep things different between divisions. In between week 5 and 6, there is an undocumented test stream where a games manager from a different territory was announcing for it. His name is James, which is spelled games. Nice guy. He had opinions on how Gina was handling the league and found it unorganized. I have a couple of screenshots which you've already seen, so most of this info is from immediate reporting, such as from Bugs. When asked about any memory issues when he was first hired, Games sidestepped the question. We do know his favorite dino, which is the Parasaurolophus, the same as Gina's. I told you this was going to come back up. So this stream was a match between the Al Dente and Boardwalkers. The Al Dente won and gained a nice pitching boost due to this. Week 6 finally lets us see the Cranes' new stadium, A Quiet Place. The Quiet Place holds several moments of silence for those who have passed or moved on. On top of this, on occasion, balls will land on graves. During the first match of this tournament, we see Jolene Shepard Mary's grave, a previous player of the Al Dente, of which I've brought up earlier, who has gone off the table due to the anti-count ruling that was mentioned earlier. So, if you recall that questionnaire, and when Gina was asked what off the table meant, and Gina responded at the end of her response, a redacted place, that redacted part is quiet. So this is where either these players are buried, but more likely are memorialized. And I'll talk about this later at the very end of this video, but I want to get the ball rolling on that thought. Also during this first match, the rain changes to a dark variant of cyan and purple. The effects of these variants are currently unknown. However, I believe that they increase stats more than the regular versions. However, I could be wrong. During the entire stream, we also find out that Al Dente player Guinevere Cheddar's previous occupation is a perfumer. Basically, they're just good at creating perfume scents. Roland breaks into Gina's office. She does not like this. However, she does not use the phrasing, strike 3, Roland. And during this final match, back at Quiet Place, one of the first things in the play-by-play is the grave of Finley Braxton. I do not know who Finley Braxton is. This player, or at least character, has yet to appear anywhere else at all. If they were on a team, I have no idea what team that could have been. If they're off the table, I have no idea. However, it's also safe to assume that these graves do not contain the bodies of players or non-player characters, as we also see Deborah Ubuntu's grave, which is basically, Gina has a bit of a disdain towards Ubuntu. There is a in-universe character named Deborah Ubuntu who Gina despises. We've never met Ubuntu at all, but I imagine that Ubuntu is not actually in the dirt in A Quiet Place. So I think it furthers that reasoning that A Quiet Place is not necessarily a actual grave site, but more of a memorial. The first umbrella person, a non-player character who holds an umbrella for the umpire, is taken by the Nor'easter. Now, this might have been a bug, as the Nor'easter had yet to appear in this entire tournament. Either way, it happened. I'm also going to be keeping track of umbrella people deaths, So this is number one. Following these games, Gina states that nothing has changed about the weather. However, she still intends to clean it up. She then asks for fans to decide what stat to sacrifice next, of which fielding was picked. After the announcement of the next game day, she then asks fans when the next sacrifice should happen, before or after the games, and before was picked, meaning that Al Dente's Avery Trecan loses their batting. Due to the Al Dente winning this week, they also won a stadium. I forgot to mention this earlier, that the reward for this week was a stadium, so we will be seeing that stadium next week. Just before the Week 7 matches kicked off, Gina announced that the winner of this tournament will be getting a pretty good ace, and I'll save some time with this and just say that it's a good pitcher, and we'll see them later on. There's also a new addition to the UI of the stream, which is a strike zone, so now fans can finally see where pitches are being thrown. During this first match, it was decided that there will be a special match between the losers of the bracket. I'll just say that it's the Barons and Walkers for a stadium, and that stadium will take 1 to 3 weeks to build. Even better, the loser of that match will also be getting a boost to their infield. Al Dente's new stadium, Forfelles Ristorante and Ballpark, has a table for one set up at the pitching mound. On occasion, the pitcher is forced to pitch a literal meatball, and this meatball is an automatic home run. Personally, I don't like this mechanic. That's all I'm going to say on the topic. Also during this match, Crimson Rain appears for the first time. It increases blam, hand-eye bat coordination, marksmanship, and lore. All these stats presumably have to do with batting. We also find out that Grolin's previous occupation was troublemaker, which is quite fitting for them. Gina lets the fans vote on who should be the home team for the final game, Al Dente or Cranes. Fans picked the Al Dente. During this match, we were informed that Houston does have a team, if you care. The Al Dente are the winners for this week, whose pitcher Shepard Wheat will be getting their fielding sacrificed, and at least it's made up for the fact that they will be getting a good ace. We also finally get to see what Cyan increases, which it increases gut cleat coordination, pepper, roguelike, and chessitude, which are presumably all running stats. We also see a grave-marked umbrella person, which is probably also not buried there, considering they were carried off by the nor'easter. Also, find out Edison Yarkan's previous occupation, of which was prom queen. I don't know what that means about their age, but oh well. The Barons won this special match, letting them acquire a stadium, which also means the Walkers get a nice infield increase, a win-win, I would say. And a couple days later, Gina asks if we want more of what nobody knew yet. The following day, she posted this image that you're seeing here, A or 2. The image attached showed 2 playing cards, an ace of spades and a 2 of spades. Fun fact, the cards behind the playing cards are from the Arcane League Tarot deck made by Ang Bamundo. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The public decided for aces, and this was later revealed to be a new pitcher, so now teams have an actual pitching rotation. Sadly, Gina spills the batting rotation, causing them to get out of order. Also, remember how the Al Dente were meant to get a good pitcher? They actually got a C-, which isn't even as good as Grolin's C. Gina then announces that the next game day will be a best of 3 between the Al Dente and Cranes. Going forward, weeks are going to split up into multiple sections by point number. So for the Al Dente and Cranes, it will be week 8.1. So during this tournament, fans were allowed to vote for what stat the winning team would get, or if the Walkers should get a stadium. Fans decided to do the not-so-kind option of increasing the pitching. This led the Walkers to getting a lot more mad at the general division. Green Rain also appears, which seems to increase fielding stats as it increases glove heart coordination, group mind, zip with 3 I's, zop with 3 O's. I thought I'd make the clarification of spelling those. Cranes won the best of 3, netting them a pitching increase. However, they lost the last round due to the sudden appearance of umpire Germa, spelled Germa, who is now pitching for the Al Dente. This bit came about due to Twitch chat mentioning Germa starting to stream on Twitch.
And so Gina then mentioned the player with the name Germa. So I don't think it's that important, and we'll just leave it here. This loss means that they will not be getting a nice treat, and the win also means Raul Lorm will be getting a stat sacrificed later. At the end of the stream, Gina proceeds to talk to someone. It's not anybody in chat, but presumably somebody who entered her office, discussing how bad she feels about having to sacrifice player stats. Week 8.2 has the Walkers versus Barons starting off at the Barons' new stadium, Ancient Orchard Beach. This stadium's mechanic has to do with a tree that occasionally balls will be hit into, causing quote-unquote tree rule double. This just forces a player to go to second base immediately. Even less likely is for a apple to fall when a ball goes into that tree, which gives a stat boost to that batter that goes to second base. Gina mentions how if the Walkers sweep this best of 3, they would get their stadium. Also, nor'easters can be colored. Currently, the UI does not convey this. However, it's just something I thought I'd mention. The players on the Boardwalkers are starting to get a little cranky about the whole not having a stadium thing, saying, "Man, I sure wish I had a stadium." Grullen breaks into Gina's booth again, this time accidentally disconnecting the mic because they were playing with a ball. Also, we lost another umbrella person. That's 2 now. The second nor'easter lasted several innings, meaning that players were losing stats constantly. And we learn of 3 players' previous occupations. Corvid Hernandez was a butler, Gunnar Irons was a manager, and Simone Dundes was a biologist. Gina then mentions getting started on construction, then quickly realizes the Walkers did not sweep, adding salt to the fans' wounds and presumably the Walkers' own as well. In the end, the Barons won out against the Walkers, getting themselves, I assume, more pitching. Gina never actually confirmed this. Gina once again chats with someone, saying that the sacrifices has to work. Week 9.1 starts with Gina asking fans what stat should be sacrificed from Scout Fafana, the Apple Barons' new ace, and Raul Lorm, one of the Cranes' batters, have sacrificed. The fans decide against sacrificing at all, and Gina is, of course, surprised by this, but is accepting of it. A curious fan then asks if the Storm will be mad at the community, and Gina proceeds to go outside and ask the Storm herself. She does not get a response, however, she is now considered quote-unquote damp. There's no VOD for the Week 9.1 matchup of the Boardwalkers and Cranes. However, thankfully, due to Gina's Blue Sky posts, we know the Boardwalkers sweeped the Cranes, which gained themselves a nice new logo made by Angbamundo, who I've mentioned previously. During the first match, both teams got damp due to the rain stagnating, and Gina implies this is due to not sacrificing Raul and Scout. Thanks to the T-Ball reporter known as Bugs, we know that the Walkers were angry as they have started to get a little more talkative about their want for a stadium. Almost forgot to mention, this stream, fans informed Gina of Dino Dance, a Twitch emote of a little dinosaur dancing, and Gina uses this whenever she needs to de-stress during a stream. Week 9.2 has Apple Barons versus the Al Dente. At the start of the very first match, both the Al Dente and Barons get damp. Pitchers and batters can now have stare downs, so when one of either of them fail, they take what I'm going to call disadvantage during that face-off. This probably has to do with the pitching substat Intimidate. Failure most likely causes substats in batting or pitching to take a dip for that face-off. Gina confirms that the rain has continuity, as in it carries its condition from the previous match to the next. The Barons' Apple rule at their stadium now increases and decreases 2 stats, might also still on occasion increase just 1 stat. It also seems to be increasing only lore. This is from only what I personally have observed. I don't know, it could be different. Another umbrella person is taken, a moment of silence for the third.
And then we get to see that players that get blown out of the batter's box due to the higher stages of rain get an automatic out. This end stream chat reveals Gina has been talking to James, sorry, almost mispronounced that, telling him that both teams got damp and says she will ask the players what to do. We also know that she is still sick but is looking forward to some soup. Week 10.1 starts with Gina asking if we should sacrifice again. We, however, say no. This is also the first post with the new Terrorball logo. It looks like this. This week has a Boardwalkers versus Al Dente matchup. And at the start of the very first match, the Al Dente and Boardwalkers get soaked. There's also 2 new graves when we visited A Quiet Place. One for the Sun and another for Umbrella Person, number 3. The Nor'easter overflowed a player's zip. This might mean that their stat is at max. The rain is also soaking players, causing stats to go up by 7 or 8 levels. The Al Dente take home the win. However, I don't think there was an award for this matchup, except, a treat if you sweep. Now, week 10.1 does not have a VOD, so most of this information is coming from a reporting account called Poe, the intern. Week 10.2 has the classic rivalry of Cranes versus Apple Barons. Just before the stream starts, Gina says that her cold has stagnated, which is similar to the storm. As mentioned during week 10.1, players can get soaked during a match, causing a stat increase usually. The level associated has nothing to do with the stage of rain, which is what I initially thought. During the second match, Gina says something about Noble Tiger, all caps. It's an acronym for no outs, bases loaded, ending with team incapable of getting easy run, which I love this. I love learning baseball-related stuff from my baseball sims. So, just a fun fact I'd share. This stream also has Gina creating the Do Something to Grolin community goal, which has most people who dislike a Grolin putting channel points in it. In the end, the Cranes do win, however, they do not sweep. And once again, there was no actual reward for winning these best of threes. So, yeah, I'm going to hand you off to outro, Mino. Okay, so before I end and I give my thanks and whatnot, I do have one theory I want to share, and that is what does off the table actually mean? And so the devs have stated that they are inspired by tabletop roleplay mechanics. However, the terminology off the table could be referring to how you could accidentally throw a dice off the table or spill some cards off the table, So, personally, I think there will be a mechanic, either in the near future, I'll just say, that will allow us to hopefully pick up those players who have fallen off the table and bring them back either to the correct teams or to any team at all. It's even more influenced by the fact that terminology such as, like, in a quiet place, how the term lost and moved on are used, but never past. Past is never used. It's lost and moved on. Lost implies that, like, they've just disappeared, and moved on could just mean going elsewhere. Not necessarily they died, So with that out of the way, with my theory of players who have fallen off the table coming back, I want to finally, give thanks, like it's Thanksgiving, to everybody who's helped me out here on this. I want to thank, obviously, the devs for making this game. I want to thank my friends for supporting me throughout this endeavor of writing and all that jazz. And then, of course, the community. Everybody in the community is amazing, and I love everything that comes out
of these kinds of communities. Everybody's so supportive and caring, and I'm so excited to finally be able to put this out. I've had the script sort of done. I've had to make a couple edits even while recording because I missed some things. Other people have missed some things. But if I did miss anything, I'm sure eventually somebody will make a note of it and let me know. So I just thank you for watching, of course. This has been rambling outro, unscripted. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please do the normal YouTube things such as subscribing, liking, even leave a comment. I love getting criticism as long as it's like, hey, here's a way you can improve your content. Don't, hate on me. That's not what I'm looking for. So, hoping you enjoyed this, and hopefully see you in the near future. Week 11 has already started. We're already up past week 11.3, so I presume there will be a week 11.4. So I will get to work on that probably pretty soon. I already don't even need to rewatch those VODs, but hopefully get those out. I have some plans for other T-ball related videos, such as my insane theories that I pray don't ever happen. So, thank you for also listening to me ramble for the last couple minutes here. See you all next time. Bye-bye.